Welcome to the Cambridge Financial Podcast with Bert Salazar, CEO at Cambridge Financial Partners, LLC. This podcast is all about tax-preferred retirement planning, economics, financial risk management, and achieving a risk-free and successful financial life. Now, your host, Bert Salazar. Bert Salazar. Bert Salazar.
Hey, good day, everyone. Welcome to episode 128 of your Tax-Free Life podcast. As you all know, I'm excited to be here with all of you today. And the name of this episode is The Benefits of Roth in a Tax-Increasing World. So we'll be talking a little bit about Roth IRAs and the taxes that most of us are going to have to deal with at some point in time in the future. But I want to give you a quick refresher. And then for those of you that may not know this, you may want to go back to episode 91. And this is an episode that I did some time ago, and it was called To Roth or Not to Roth? Tax is the question. So I go into a lot of details in that episode, but what I want to do for today's episode is kind of talk to you about two clients that I met last week for the first time. So now they're becoming our clients, so we're excited about that. And I'll tell you a little bit about these clients and what are some of the challenges that they're facing today. And many of you are going to be facing these same challenges at some point in time in the future. Some of you actually may be facing those challenges today. So these two clients made an appointment with me. We got on a video conference call. And they had been listening to my podcast, and they have watched a couple of my videos, so they wanted to reach out and they wanted to catch up with me. They live here in Florida. They actually live in West Palm Beach. I'm in Coral Gables, Florida, which is part of Miami. So we're away from each other, but we had a great video conference call. It started with a 20-minute get to know each other. And I believe that we spent just north of an hour, and it was wonderful because we got to know each other quite well, and we were able to share a lot of good information along those lines. Now, this couple is husband and wife. He's 67 and she's 66. They're retired Florida educators, so they were teachers in Florida for many years. And they both have guaranteed pensions through the Florida retirement system. And they have both chosen a 100% survivor benefit. Now, perhaps I would have recommended something differently, but it is what it is because they have already made that choice and they have already retired. So they're protecting each other 100% with their own pension benefits along those lines. Now, they're both collecting Social Security benefits. And for many years, they both contributed to 403B accounts, which are your traditional tax-deferred accounts that you would have in that world. And obviously, they made those contributions for over 30 years as well. So, as far as making contributions, they were really good savers and so forth. And because Florida has a DROP program, which is called the Deferred Retirement Option Program, which would allow you under Florida law in part of their pension system for you to retire and continue to work for the same institution. And then the money that you would have received as a pension benefits gets placed into a DROP account, which is similar to an IRA account where the money goes in pre-tax and the money grows tax deferred. And then when you pull it out, obviously you would have to pay taxes on the whole thing. So they went ahead and adopted the Florida DROP program in order to enhance their retirement accounts. And now remember, they had been contributing to their 403B for many years, but then by retiring and taking the DROP, all those pension benefits that they were both going to be receiving, they were being paid to a DROP account. So that account increased significantly in a very small or short period of time. So that was good from that perspective. Now, they still have two mortgages outstanding. One is their current home and then another piece of property that they bought in the Keys about 10 years ago. And that's where they wanted to make their ultimate retirement. But they haven't decided to move there yet. Now, they really haven't done anything as part of any type of insurance planning, no long-term care planning, no insurance planning whatsoever. So, that is one of the areas that they want to start looking at very closely, although I would argue they should have done that 10, 15 years ago. But, it is what it is at this point in time. Now, you may say, well, why are they concerned with their retirement decisions and the amount of retirement income that they're generating? Well, the biggest issue is that, I reviewed their taxes over the weekend, and they make the same amount of money that they were making prior to retirement, but they're actually paying double the tax that they were paying before because they have lost some of those deductions, exemptions, and credits that they were enjoying while they were working. And believe me, we're now at the third lowest historical tax rate in the history of the IRS code, and it can only get worse. So they're very, very concerned about that. And because they had heard some of my podcasts and some of my videos regarding taxation, they decided to reach out to me. In addition to that, they have worked with 3 different financial advisors over the last 30 years. And none of them did any type of retirement distribution planning for them. So, shame on those advisors. But, I'll try to do the very best that I can for them. But, some of the things that they have already done, there's no way that I can take it back. But I can try to save them from themselves moving forward into the future. So, some of the things that we talked about during the video conference call is, their issues and concerns. And basically, after they told me where they were at financially and what they had done in the past and so forth, I started to bring forth some of the concerns that I would have if I were in their shoes from a taxable and a business standpoint. Number one, both pensions that they're receiving are being taxed at 100%. Now, also remember that the pensions that they have a COLA, have an annual COLA, which is a cost of living adjustment. So their pensions will continue to go up, and because their pensions will continue to go up, so will their tax liability. Now, they're already collecting on their Social Security benefits. Probably I would have recommended something different. I haven't done any Social Security calculations for them, but they're already collecting on both benefits. And those benefits, because of their pensions and their distributions from their retirement accounts, are being taxed at 85%. In other words, 85% of both Social Security benefits that they're receiving are being taxed at their marginal and effective tax rate. So that's not a good thing. Anytime they take money out of their 403B distributions, and they have done so in the last couple of years, those distributions are being taxed at 100%. Also, the money that they're taking out of their drop account after they separate it from service is also being taxed at 100%. So from a taxable standpoint, they're in international waters on a dinghy with no paddles because they don't have any type of tax shelter or tax protection shelter that they can utilize in order to minimize their tax liability. They never contributed to a Roth, and they never took any of their money and contributed to municipal bonds. They never took any of that money and contributed to a 7702 plan, which is a cash value life insurance plan where the money grows tax deferred and you can pull it out tax free. So they really did a horrible job, and their advisors did a horrible job from a tax distribution perspective. Now, they did a great job as far as pre-tax distribution, but, be careful what you wish for because obviously they're going to be paying the price now and for many, many years to come. Now, due to their retirement, as I stated earlier, they have lost a number of deductions and credits that they would otherwise be obtaining, and that's why their tax liability has been increasing. Because remember, while they were working, they were putting a lot of money away in their 403Bs. So they were taking a deduction for that, so they weren't paying taxes on that. But the challenge is when you take a deduction, you're not saving, and for many years they thought that they were saving taxes. Actually, only until about 2 years ago when they retired did they realize that they were going to have to pay taxes on their 403B distributions. So remember, when you defer the tax, you're also deferring the tax liability. Now, another big issue that I want to share with all of you is that in March, I think it was in March of 2020, the market dropped significantly due to the pandemic that we're still dealing with today. Now, the market has recovered as well, but you know what they did about that? They did absolutely nothing. Now, you would think that if they had been advised by a good advisor that would have done some tax planning, perhaps it would have been a great opportunity in March of 2020 for them to take some of that 403B distribution after doing some proper tax planning or some other drop money, and take that money out and convert it to a Roth. Yeah, they would have had to pay the tax this year on that conversion, but now that money would have grown tax-free for the rest of their lives. And because of the fact that the market has recovered so much since March of 2020, a lot of that recovery in that account could have been done on a tax-free basis, not including all the other tax planning that could be done for them moving forward. So that brings me, and this is an issue that I discussed with them because they really didn't know that much about, Roth IRAs and Roth 401ks and Roth 403Bs or any of those accounts. So I kind of educated them a little bit on that, but just to give you a little bit of the benefits of Roth IRAs. Obviously, because of the fact that they did nothing in March of 2020, they lost a tremendous opportunity to be able to shift, some of that money from forever taxed to never, ever, ever again be taxed. And they lost that opportunity. Now they should continue to put money into a Roth, and I'm going to do some tax planning for them, and I'll keep you posted along those lines. And based on the tax planning and where they are as far as the tax bracket is concerned, I will probably going to be suggesting for them to start shifting, some of that money to a Roth on an annual basis, so they wouldn't have such a big taxable impact from one year to the next. And hopefully we can maximize those distributions between now and 2025, because when January 1 of 2026 comes around, the old law is going to take over, and now taxes are going to be greater than they are today. So, but that's something that I'll deal with them on an annual basis as we move forward. Now, also remember that once you pay the tax on a Roth conversion, the money is going to grow tax-free for the rest of your life, and that's something that I also stated to them. And another big issue that most people don't realize with Roth IRAs is that because of the fact that they are age 67 and age 66 respectively, they're going to have to start taking mandatory distributions out of their retirement accounts at age 72, whether they want to or not. See, even if their pensions continue to go up and they get to a point where they don't need to take distributions out of their IRAs and or drop money, they're not going to have a choice. At age 72, they're going to have that required minimum distribution, in which they're going to have to take money out of those accounts and pay the taxes on those accounts. And if they fail to pay the taxes if they fail to take money out of those accounts, then there's going to be a 50%, yeah, you heard me correctly, a 50% excise tax that is going to be charged on the amount of money that they should have taken at age 72, 73, 74, every year thereafter, and that they didn't. So not only are they going to have to pay the tax on the amount of money that they failed to take out when they were required to do so, but on top of that, they're going to have to pay a 50% penalty on top of those taxes as well. So they have no choice. At age 72, their tax liability is going to get even greater than what it is today. And that's without taking into consideration that taxes are going to have to double in the future, or our country is going to go bankrupt. So that's a big issue that they're going to have to deal with. Now, once you put the money into a Roth, then that money is going to grow tax-free for the rest of their lives, and the Roth is going to avoid the required minimum distribution. So now they would have the ability to have a great foundation for the slow-go years and the no-go years of life. So always remember that, I always divide retirement into 3 decades. I always plan for 3 decades in retirement, and I call them the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. So the go-go years are between 65 and 75, the slow-go years between age 75 and 85, and then the no-go years just north of 85 until the time of death. So therefore, if you have money in a Roth IRA, the money can continue to grow tax-free for the rest of your life or for many years down the line. So these clients are 67 and 66. So if they start shifting some of that money, and they have quite a bit there, to Roth accounts, now that money can continue to grow tax deferred into their mid-70s, their late 70s, early 80s, mid-80s, late 80s, and they don't have to touch that money if they don't want to. Now, the other big issue with Roth IRAs is that the Roth IRAs do not have a negative impact on Social Security taxation and or any type of additional Medicare premiums in retirement, because obviously there's a provisional income calculation that needs to be done every year if you're taking Social Security benefits, to determine what percentage of those Social Security benefits are going to be taxed in retirement. So there are many, many advantages that Roth IRAs have. And also the last one, which I'm going to do a podcast on this one next week, is that the Roth IRAs also avoid the widow's penalty tax in retirement. And I'm not going to go into details because I'll go into detail on this particular issue next week on episode 129 of your Tax-Free Life podcast. So, for those of you that have retirement accounts today, if you're not actively managing those accounts, then shame on you, and you're going to be paying taxes and you're going to be losing opportunities for the rest of your life. So you have to be able to make sure that you understand what is happening around you, what is happening to the stock market, what's happening to all your retirement accounts, and how to take advantages whenever there's a drop in the market in order to benefit you and your family for the rest of your life, and having the ability to correct bad situations along the way and be able to do something good out of a bad situation at some point in time in the future. So hopefully you have enjoyed this podcast. For those of you that want to pick my brain, please feel free to reach out at area code 786-766-1042. You can also send me an email at Bert, B-E-R-T, at bertsalazar.com, BERTSALAZAR.com. And always remember that my goal for you and for your family is to kind of help you change the way that you see things. Because when you change the way that you see things, the things that you see change. So once again, thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.